Law versus realities. The problem with our environmental regulations so far, Tushar tells me, is that they are difficult to enforce and a trigger of lot of backlash from different groups. It has not helped that India has often taken a fairly crude approach to such regulation. The government has tended to follow the outlaw and ban route when it comes to products that pollute, which as a result of massive negative impact on business revenues paints environmental concerns as the nemesis of markets. The ban on plastic bags in Maharashtra in 2005, for instance, immediately raised the specter of lost jobs in the state, with companies estimating that 1 lakh workers in the plastic industry would be affected. Most scientists lump India and China together while discussing the climate change crisis for developing economies, but the drivers of environmental corrosion are very different from the two countries. China's environmental degradation has taken place within a very lax government policy, and government officials have been quite willing to trade pollution for growth. But as China has become a landscape of copper red and copper blue rivers, unbreathable air, and villages literally disappearing under seas of sludge, the Chinese government has begun to enforce stricter regulations and standards. In India, however, the challenge is different. India has often been hyped as the more can do economy compared to China, highly entrepreneurial, and one where development has been bottom up rather than China's top down, state directed model. But our strengths are also our flaws. Since state control in India is either weak or counterproductive, state led environmental policies such as pollution standards are notoriously difficult to enforce. For instance, as Sharot says, we may be adopting the best standards in car emissions now, but these cars quickly become less efficient thanks to fuel adulteration and weaknesses in the maintenance, renewal, routine checks of vehicles. Even government industrial projects rarely follow the pollution guidelines laid out by the states. Dr. Gulati tells me, I find the indifferent approach towards these guidelines frankly astonishing. He notes, for instance, that some of India's sanctioned ACC would build industrial units on India's most fertile farming regions, the Ganga Jamuna basins. In fact, Indian governments have only grown more lenient with such regulations. The government's environmental impact assessment EIAs have been widely inaccurate and off target in evaluating proposed industry projects, and this has allowed several potentially destructive projects near sensitive ecosystems. For instance, in 2006, the Ministry of Environment and Forest released a clearance for a bauxite mining project in Maharashtra. EIA report accompanying the clearance contained data from a Russian document on bauxite mining which had nothing to do with the Indian project. The report mentioned spruce and beech forests, neither of which exists in the project site Ramgiri nor elsewhere in India. The apathy has been made worse by the government's reluctance to pass better, much needed environmental laws. Indian environmentalists who work on a wide range of concerns biodiversity, water, agricultural health, forestry have pointed out to me that we need specific policies to sustain key natural resources. For instance, Suprabha notes that we need biodiversity policies that promote more sensible cutting and help preserve plant diversity, which is critical to keep tropical ecosystems from collapsing. Tipping point 2000 and on. There is a point when a ripple turns into tidal wave, a wind into blizzard, and a movement into a revolution. The tipping point that truly transformed IT attitudes across the country was the rise of the telecom sector. Since the 1999 telecom policy, India has grown exponentially and tele-density growth has surged from 0.7% in 1991 to 27% in 2008. India's mobile network is gained over 8 million subscribers every month. Its biggest problem right now is getting enough spectrum, and at the present rate, the country is set to soon become the world's second largest telecom network. This has been the transforming platform which, on top of our other layers of electronification, is allowing us to try out multiple mix and match IT enabled infrastructure. It has, for example, enabled the banking network to integrate mobile and internet networks with automated banking. Meanwhile, the NSDL led national networks with automated bank NSDL-led National Tax Information Network (TIN) is tying in India's direct tax system with the IT platform of stock exchanges, the depository market, and banks. The network has helped the government dramatically expand the tax net and is a major factor for a rise in India's direct tax collection, which grew a record 40% in 2007 to 8. The growing connections between the banking platform, the mobile phone platform, and the railway reservation platform are paving the way for services that, among others, allow customers on book and pay for train tickets on their mobile phones. One of the fastest growing of such transactions today is the payment for airline tickets purchased over the internet within credit cards and mobile phones. And each time such a high speed tele-enabling transaction replaces an old economy, slow paper-based one, we are seeing a productivity pop that ripples through the economy. The telecom revolution has also built the foundation for the rise of truly mass access to IT. In India, the two countries' rhetoric and the isolation of our villages has historically not been exaggerated. When Nehru was at the peak of the popularity and no leader it can safely be said to rival Nehru in this when he was at the top of this game. A researcher from Hyderabad traveled to a few somewhat inbound Indian villages and asked them who Nehru was. Many had not heard of him. A few said that he was a random Pandit, but the others speculated that he was some German. While access and information have improved since that low point, much of rural India still remains walled off from the rest of the country thanks to the terrible state of an infrastructure. One-fourth of India's villages do not have a road leading out of them. The lack of the most basic connectivity has deeply limited rural India's growth since it cut off access to critical information such as market price for crops and weather patterns. Transmitting information about price shocks around a certain crop from the central market to outlying rural areas can sometimes take months. As a result, farmers in India find out about price collapse too late, often after the planting season. For these farmers, IT is not just access to information economy, it is their only access to it, and a critical life-changing one. The demand for IT has consequently grown dramatically across rural India, and rural IT-based services led to private sector have sown in recent years. Sriram Raghavam's internet community centers and kiosks, for instance, offer low-cost computing and networking services across villages, and ITC's 7,000 e-Chopal centers allow farmers to check commodity prices and sell crops online.